Hi guys, how are you? Welcome back to my garden. In today's video, I want to do an amazing, great fun project because I finally want to start my spring containers. It's been a really long time since I shared a video about pots with you. And the reason is simple. It was pretty cold. And now the temperatures are finally really nice and springy. The sun is out today. It feels warm and beautiful. So the perfect time to really focus on some nice spring beauty in all my containers. At the moment, all the containers that I have standing in the garden, they're looking, oh well. Some are still like with autumnal plants, some have like winter plants in it, wilting away basically. So it's really about time to change something here. So how I want to structure today's video is, first of all, I just would love to tour you around and show you the entire situation. Nothing has been manicured, so this is exactly to how it looked here in the past couple of months. Then I just want to give you a tour about all the plants that I found in the garden centers. There's a lot of really fun, nice things, great color combinations, I believe. And then I just want to take the momentum and just share with you how I put things up and also talk you through about the process on how I do actually select the plants, my thought process in going through this, because I feel containers are like great and fun and amazing, but you can also really play with them and you can use them even later on in the year, depending on what you have in your containers in different areas of the garden. So hope you are excited to join me in my garden today again. Can you see it's a perfect day to do some gardening? Like, it's clear blue skies, the sun is out, it really feels lovely and warm, so I don't want to waste a second inside. I really want to make the most of it out here in the garden. And this is one of the big areas that I want to focus on today. So this is the main entrance of the house. And to be fair, it is not facing the front of the house. This is facing the back towards the garden. So whoever comes and visit needs to walk along the driveway. And there it is. This is how you enter the house. But I haven't touched any of these containers since my last winter video with you here. And a lot of the things are still looking fairly nice, I have to say. Some things will move though. So just to give you on a glance an idea on what I have here. I still have, by the way, my moss containers, which are going and growing happily for 1 year already. So this is definitely a project that was worth, and I'm going to continue with them. Then I've got my rhododendron here, which looks really cute. Hope you get to see it well. It has a lot of buds, so I'm expecting nice blooms. I love the leaf variegation, by the way. Don't you agree? Isn't it just really wonderful? Also the combination with these like reddish stems, the leaf variegation, such a fun variety, grows perfect in a container. One of the things that I will move are these tiny violas. I planted them last autumn with you, and I think that they are really pretty. I love the color, but I want to focus on softer colors here, so they will move to the veg garden eventually in a container. So, and I'm also going to store all of these pine cones here. I collected all of them in the forest last autumn and winter time, and they look so beautiful. So I'm definitely going to store all of them in the garden shed, and then, well, not next year, this year, winter, I'm going to use them again just as a little bit of a winter Christmas decoration top dressing here, because they're really cute, but not anymore. Then I've got box spheres. I have evergreens here, which I always love because they kind of calm everything down a little bit, and they're just a nice anchor plant, so they will definitely stay here. I've got some hellebores, and well, some of them are looking not so happy. Some look really good. I think what happens, or I know what happens, is that this is a clear sign of sunburn during winter time on evergreens, especially in a climate zone to where I am. So what happens is we have clear blue skies, we have really cold temperatures, the ground is frozen, but the plants are still losing moisture, and then they dry off. But I could just easily tidy it up a little bit, and then I will put them out into the landscape. Somewhere as a nice underplanting under some shrubs. I think they'd be fairly happy there. Then I've got 2 containers with heather, and I think that they will stay because I love the sulfury yellow, and it works really well with the plants that I found that I want to use in this area here. Another box sphere, more violas. There is a beauty berry with white berries, then a little display here on the outdoor table, which I'm definitely going to tidy up and change. Then there is a yew sphere, which I will pot up. I will put it in a bigger container. I'm a little worried about it. It grew so beautifully throughout last year, but some of the tips look a little wilted. I hope that this is just because of the colder temperatures. The problem with evergreens like this is when they show you sign of stress, most of the time it is too late already. But I'm quite positive that I can still salvage the situation. I'm afraid non-salvageable is this hellebore here. There is hardly anything green. Still, I'm gonna look at it, pot it out, and just see where I can go with them. So if we continue walking before I show you any plants where you can tell furniture are out, well, just one cushion because yesterday I had my coffee break here, which was lovely. If I still have enough plants left over, I want to pop some nice spring plants here in my urn, which has been tackled by the wind quite heavily. And I think that some of the pussy willows that I put in there actually rooted in because they look really nice and fresh. So let's see what I come across. Wisteria here looks really nice, so it kind of ends up being more of a garden tour now. I have 3 tiny containers here on the terrace. I don't think I have enough to decorate everything, so I think that I will just like put them somewhere else, clean the terrace. So just have a fresh, clean space for the year. What looks really beautiful are all of the hellebores here in front of the garden shed. There are 4 which I put in containers last year, and they came to bloom again, and they look really fantastic. I mean, look at that, how vigorous they are. There are more over there. So in general, I love how subtle the entire area here in front of the garden shed is. There are some containers, oh my God, they're looking not so cute. So mums were in here and some decoration, and yeah, definitely need to remove those. And look what here. I haven't removed it just to show you the reality. I'm a little ashamed. I haven't removed a pumpkin, and that is what happened. And it was tucked in so nicely and hidden under the hellebore that I completely forgot about it up until the point when I just discovered it the other day, and I was like, ew. But all right, more of the beautiful hellebores are here. Another mum which is completely dead as a doornail. So this is going to go. Moss containers look fantastic here because it is quite shady here. In the morning hours there's sun, and then in the late afternoon, evening there's a little bit of sun. So moss definitely thrives very happily here. What I also love is, and this is more like a staging idea and a general idea for your garden, is that the hellebore here is in a container and it's a little bit elevated from the ground. So by doing that, suddenly you can raise the plants a little bit from the ground level, and especially in winter it's beautiful because I can really see it from the distance, and not everything happens like so close to ground level. Suddenly by doing that, you're really allowed to have different kind of heights and levels in your garden, and this is absolutely beautiful. So the 2 areas that I really want to focus on mainly are main entrance of the house and the area in front of the garden shed. So I've got some wood here, which is for another project. There's Alfie. She is, well, you might think that she's chilling, but actually there is a tiny branch here. This tiny, oop, there am I, tiny thing, and she wants me to throw it, which I'm going to do in a second. But what I did is I've already prepared everything here yesterday. So today everything will be easy and nice, and I just know what I have. So what I always do is I take all of the containers that I have, put them in rows, in sizes, so I really know how many do I have, what do I want to use. What I did is I bought 4 new containers. I really love these ones here because they have this kind of like thick ring around it, and the shape is nice. They age very gracefully. So there's one container which I already have for a year or 2, so I really love the way how they age. So one of my favorite containers. Then I've got some fresh garden soil. I've got some crocks that you need for the bottom of a container if you start new containers. So if any container, this is one that actually broke because Alfie tipped it over and then it just broke. So, well, this is what happens sometimes, but for me actually it's an advantage now because now I have a good pile of crocks that I can use for new pots. Then I've got these, I'm not really sure how to name it actually. It's like a granulate which keeps moisture. I think it's made of concrete, if I'm not wrong, like a puff concrete. But it's kind of nice because it loftens up your soil, and I like to mix it in a potting mix. I've got some soil for my conifers, so for the yew that I will pot up. And now comes the fun part, all of the plants, obviously. So one of my really beautiful anchor plants that I want to use is this euphorbia here. And it has a name somewhere. Okay, let me just try and find it and twist it now for you. So everybody's interested, it's called Silver Swan. And I absolutely love the contrast of these dark red stems, and they really gently have an ombre to nice green The foliage has a really beautiful leaf variegation, kind of echoing what the rhododendron does. So I thought, oh, this is a really beautiful planting companion. And the blooms are just opening, so I think that they should be sulfury, greenish yellow, so really nice also in combination with a yew. Then I've got a bucket full of nice wood chips that I like to use for top dressing. I have a little more moss that I took from the back of the garden from the slope. And now come all of my spring plants here. So I've got eucharis, again in a really nice lime green color. So I think that they will be a really nice leaf focal point. I've got some white hyacinth here, which are still in a bud stage, but what I will do with them is they will go here then into the borders, because I always buy the same kind every single year, and every single year they go into the borders. Then I've got some really nice primulas. Look at them, aren't they nice? White, 4 of them. Now comes the real spring joy and color. So I've got pansies in a really nice fresh lemon yellow. Very happy with those. I think that they work perfectly with the euchera and also amazing with the euphorbia. So this is why I was like, I need to have this color. Then violas as another accent, and I'm going to change the violas that are in the main entrance now by these because they are softer, and I just love that they tie back all the colors in one bloom. There's a little bit of yellow, a little bit of white, then there is this pale, nice violet color. Look at this cheeky one. Little dark purple in there too. Really beautiful. Then for the garden shed, I found some really interesting pansies in this like blush tone, grayish, whitish blush. Really beautiful. I think that they will look fantastic in combination with the hellebores that I grow there. And some more pansies. This is just like one of these like flats from the hardware store, to be honest, so they were not very pricey, but I thought it's a nice color and maybe I can still use them. So this is all I have. What I will do now is prepare a little bit, talk you through my potting mix that I will prepare, and then pot the euphorbias together with you. First, I want to talk a little bit about the potting mix. Obviously, if you don't want to make your own mix, what you can always do is go to the garden center and buy soil there. But if you do so, make sure that you buy a good quality, because if you buy cheap soil, what happens is sometimes in those containers it might clump together or it might even get mushy, and that is not good for your plants, because if it clumps together then the soil is too dense and the plants can't root in. But if it gets mushy, it might be even worse, because then it is just too moist in there after watering, because the water doesn't rinse off and the roots of your plants might be damaged and even rot inside. So this is the one thing that I would just really want to say: make sure that you buy a nice, good, peat-free potting mix, always peat-free, because you want to make sure that the wetlands are definitely protected and not end up in your containers. What I personally do, and this is something that I came up with last year, is try to make a little bit of a circle in the entire garden. So when I have the soil from the containers that are completely rooted in and I can't use it for any new planting, is I will take that soil, chop it up, and it goes onto the compost heap. I really dig it under with everything which is going on in the compost heap, so that it mixes the roots that are in there, they will break down, and then I can utilize it again, because in general it's not bad, you know, it's not a bad quality, it just needs to be amped up a little bit. This is also why I sometimes throw a good handful of organic bone chips on my compost heap, because they break down to nitrogen and they enrich it even more. So what I do here is I use 1/3 an average of compost, which I already have here in my wheelbarrow. It's beautiful. It's like this lovely smelling fresh black matter that you can use for any kind of potting. The one thing that you need to know though is that this is not sterile. So if you use it, weed seeds definitely flew in over the last year or two. So when I use it for my containers, the occasional weeds are going to pop up, so I need to do a little weeding, unfortunately, in my container. So if you don't want to do that, really use a sterile potting mix or a sterile soil from the garden center. So what I do now is that I will use the lovely soil from the garden center. I'm going to do it later to speed things up a little bit. So roughly 2/3 soil from a garden center, 1/3 compost, or even half-half. I don't have too much compost left over right now, so this is what I use 1/3. Then I also use always a good hand of organic bone chips. It breaks down to nitrogen, it really enriches your soil, and if all of this in the end goes back onto the compost heap, this is a good idea, I think. Always mix everything under really well, And the compost, you can just tell it's lofty. This is how compost should look like. It should not, if your compost is mushy, for example, you might have put too many lawn clippings on there. So always make sure that your compost, just come in with a garden fork and really tip it over even throughout the year to give some oxygen to the entire thing. I just did it yesterday and there's so many earthworms in there, which is a great sign because the earthworms and microbes, they really break everything down. Last thing that you can do, I'm not going to do it though today because I just checked the compost and it looks fantastic, is to really use the perlite or anything like this to loften everything up. But I don't think that I will do it this time around because the soil looks perfect and there is no need for it. This is just a hint of advice. Use something that can hold the moisture. Because if you don't want to water your containers too often, or if you don't have irrigation system, I don't have an irrigation system anywhere in the garden. But if you use something like this, it can hold the moisture. The roots kind of like cling to it and still get the moisture out of this. So this is also an idea of what you can use in your potting mix. So I'm going to finish my potting mix now, and then I'll start potting the euphorbias finally with you. All right, I've made it myself comfortable and I hope I have everything that I need to pot up these beautiful euphorbia. So what I want to do is I've got 6 plants in total and I want to put 3 in each container, which seems a lot if you think about how they grow in nature, but let's see how it goes. I kind of intend on keeping them in these pots because if you grow perennials like these in a containers and with euphorbias, it goes extremely well, I have to say. You can use them as a staging. What I just showed you in the beginning of the video with a hellebore that I put in a container in the border next to the garden shed, you can do just the same with these beauties here, because if at one point, for example, in the front garden, and this is where they fit perfectly in terms of color, if I have a hole throughout summer where there is no interest, I can easily put them here, because even if they're not in bloom, the foliage alone and these beautiful stems, they give so much interest and excitement that I can always use these containers, and I was very eager to use these plants in my spring arrangement. So the first thing you need to do is, when you have a container with a decent size, it also means that there is always a decent hole in the bottom for watering, because if there wouldn't be a hole, then all the water would just sit in there and then you have a bog garden at one point. So what you do is you come with one of these crocks and pot it or put it in the bottom of your pot to cover that hole. If you don't have any crocks, what you can do, I shared in the past with you, it's so easy. You have a lot of these pots always left over. So what you can do is just like take a pot like this and just cut like maybe 1.5 centimeters above the bottom, just a circle, and use this, tip it upside down into your container, because it does the same thing, and what it does is to prevent any of the soil that you put in here to wash out after watering. Some of it is going to wash out, but definitely you need to cover the hole somehow, because otherwise all the soil will just come out and you can't really move your pots anymore. Fun thing is, when I was mixing my potting mix here, I could really see how nice my compost this year is. It is a mixture of like stuff from the kitchen, a little bit of lawn clippings. I don't put too many in there. Sometimes I put some leaves in there. I also got a separate compost heap only with leaves, but I mix. I also mix like tiny branches that I really snip into tiny, tiny bits and pieces. And it seems to work because it's lovely black crumbly, the perfect color. So I told you in the beginning of the video that I want to share with you a little bit on my thought process on when I go shopping for these plants, what am I looking for? So first of all, if I do these pots, since last year I do something which I would call the evolution of my pots. I always look what is still looking nice and what I want to continue. And this year for me definitely it were the heather plants, because they are fantastic and I love the sulfury color, and I thought they work really nice with an autumnal display during winter, but even with spring, because they're kind of like fresh, very zingy. So I thought perfect plants. So first of all, I go to the one garden center where I think, yes, they probably have amazing good plants to start with, to find my anchor plants. And the anchor plants are the special plants like the euphorbias. You really want to have those plants that are a focal point that catch your attention instantly when you do your staging and your pot arrangement, where your eye sits for a moment, you go like, oh, they are nice, they are special. And the euphorbia, they were just the perfect plants. I saw them in the garden center and I thought, great, these are my anchor plants. So I have my sulfury, heather, and then I've got these euphorbia, which will also bloom in a similar color with the interest of the leaf variegation matching my rhododendrons. I was like ticking all the boxes that I needed to tick. And I thought, okay, based on that, now I can have my filler plants. And the filler plants are definitely the pansies and the violas, because here they are perennials. They come back every year, hopefully, fingers crossed, and I could use them in different areas of the garden. And the pansies and violas, they are clearly just seasonal plants. So I thought, good, I want to have some really nice lemon yellow color, greenish, preferably pansies. So these were the lightest, nicest lemony ones that I could possibly find. And then some violas in a nice soft purple tone. This is also why I changed the violas that I have there. They are a really nice gemstone color, I would describe it. Very rich and dark, and I think that they will look perfect in a different area, but not really in the setting here. I thought I need something softer, and a nice violet would just be softer. Primulas are also cute. They give a texture. I need to see where I put them, if they will go on the main entrance or in front of the garden shed. But for the garden shed, since I have all these shades of like blush and like muted pink in a way from those hellebores, I immediately knew that, okay, I need to have different colors. I don't want to put like a lime yellow in there. That is a weird color combination for me. Everybody has a different idea about colors, but for me, I was like, well, I'm not sure if I like that. So I was just stay in that world, make it easy, just buy some nice pansies that go with that. So what I did here now is I filled this container with really lovely soil. I'm just going to firm it in a little bit, not too much. But what happens anyways when you water it, the water is just going to firm everything in and the plants are really going to sit in there. So all you need to do now is tip it over, get it out of its container. It looks nice, nothing is pot bound at the bottom, maybe a little bit. So what you can do is, do I have my scissors here still? I don't. Well, I'm going to do it with my fingers. Now, normally with scissors, you can just gently come in and just release some of the roots from the bottom, which I do now like here, because I don't want that they just continue growing as they are really pressed in here, because that is not good. So obviously planted now dead level as it was growing in its pot here, or in its tiny container, because this is how it was thriving very happily. And now let me see if I can get all of them in here. I put it already like this in the garden center and it worked fairly well. Really nice. They come with a lot of tiny fresh shoots from the base of the plant. Oh, this is not looking bad. This can stay as it is. And I grow this kind of euphorbia in the front garden without the variegation though, for a couple of years, and this is an evergreen. Depending on your climate, apparently, according to my research, for me it is an evergreen. And it is one that never showed any stress or harsh, big stress after harsh winters where we really had blue skies and frosty temperatures. So for example, laurel, once I really thought that was it for my laurel in the vegetable garden. I really thought I lost it, but it came back again. But the euphorbia always is very happy. So one of those beautiful plants also for amazing winter structure and texture in your garden. Always make sure if you put it in a container that there is some soil at the corner here in between the container and where your plant goes in, because I don't want that these fresh roots are instantly touching the outside. I still want to give them the opportunity to root in a little bit. I'm really going to pack it now for the impact. So once I do my next potting video, I need to see if maybe I'm going to take one out, because the container has a good size for definitely two to keep it like this. But now for the impact, isn't this just looking fantastic? The last thing I'm going to do still is I will take some nice wood chips, put them on top here, because wood chips definitely make sure that if you water it, the moisture stays in there. Firm it in well now. This is what I always like to do. Make sure that everything is firmed in. No air pockets as usual. I love it. Isn't that just a fantastic starting point already? I'm going to do the second one. So what I will do now is, first of all, I'm going to take all the pots away from the main entrance area of the house, clean that area, really check what do I want to keep, what do I not want to keep, pot up everything, and then comes the fun part of staging everything. So I can't wait to show you a really wonderful before and after. In the beautiful afternoon sun, how lucky was I with the amazing weather for this project today. Funny thing is, like, once I arranged everything, I looked at it, I was like, oh, I really like how it looks. But at the same time, I was a little bit like, it kind of looks very much the same to how it was before. Maybe because the violas and the pansies are still rather small, and the hyacinth, they're still closed, so there are no white hyacinth. And the euphorbia, they're not in bloom yet. But in a way, I was like, it's not so much of a big before and after impact. Still, I'm going to show you everything because it's just nice that it's clean and fresh, and I know that there are a lot of things that will come to bloom very soon. How I do it is I always like to cluster them. So I always kind of have like a miniature pot arrangement, kind of like a miniature garden, something that you can even replicate on your balcony if you have it and if you don't have the amount of space that I have here. So I watered everything in very thoroughly. Love these violas, aren't they so pretty? And I think this is the biggest amount of yellow that I ever use in any kind of pot arrangement, or probably ever in my garden, because pansies are yellow. I've got yellow from the euchera leaves. I will have yellow from the euphorbia. I have kind of this sulfury yellow from the heather. Well, one is tucked in behind there and kind of hidden at the moment. But yeah, I still like it. I'm like, I really love this yellow when it goes into area of green, when it is like very lime or lemony or more like a sulfury color. What I really love about these mini garden areas, especially like here on the left, you see the different kind of textures, and I think this is why it works really well. I have the blooms already from the violas, then I'm going to have these big white blooms from the hyacinth. There is this kind of like feathery-ish texture from the heather, then the leaf variegation, kind of silvery from the distance. It's really beautiful color. Maybe I'm going to buy more of those euphorbia. And then this architectural element with the spheres. In this way, I always love to keep the evergreen spheres here because they're almost like a backbone for whatever I'm doing here. Fingers crossed that the yew is going to make it, because once I potted it up, I really had a good thorough look at it. And from one side, the side that is always south facing is really little brown. So I hope that is going to bounce back. From this side, it looks better though. Let's see. I mean, I've done my best. I potted it up. It is in a bigger pot. It has perfect soil. It's mulched in. Everything looks actually really nice. Oh my goodness. Isn't that just so wonderful? Sitting here now, this time of the year, is just beautiful because from here you have the view into the garden. You're quite protected here, which is also really wonderful. And now I can enjoy all these beautiful plants here. One last thing, a little like side information that I just read about. Whenever you grow something that has yellowish foliage, such as these eucheras here, they don't like to thrive in sun because leaves like these produce normally less chlorophyll, and this is why they prefer to grow somewhere in a part shaded area. And this is also why I put it on this side here, because here it is more protected and it only gets a certain amount of sun during the day. But really love it, so happy with that. So next stop is in front of the garden shed. I didn't really have to do that much in this area here. I think the biggest project was honestly trying to remove the pumpkin that was already melting in between the stones. So yeah, that was kind of yucky, but now it lives happily ever after on the compost heap and can do all its goodness there. But you can see that the big backbone of this entire area pretty much is the evergreen, like the Christmas tree that stays here all the time, and the hellebores. They've grown to such an amazing impact and size. There's more beautiful than last year. Can't believe it, how stunning they are. And they held up so well through all these cold, cool nights. So basically what I did is I just put a container with some really beautiful pale blush pansies here. Put some moss in there as well because it gets a lot of shade. Here's still the pansies. I had them here last year and they grew so well. So even though they're not exposed to all the sun, they definitely grow happily here. I'm so happy, by the way, that I bought these 4 primulas because they really help. They just like, they brighten up everything. They're light. I mean, these little pompons kind of like waving gently in the wind. Aren't they just pretty? And this tiny arrangement here, like with the darker pink pansies here, then the blush one there, box sphere, all the moss containers, more hellebores. I've watered everything in so thoroughly. Also the moss containers, by the way. If you do moss containers, remind yourself to water them because if they dry out, they turn yellow. and they might not bounce back. But if you really give them water, moss is just a really nice thing and structure that you can have in the garden. One is tucked in here in the back. So yeah, I'm happy. I think it looks so wonderful, and it looks really beautiful now against the amazing late afternoon sun. I'm so happy with the garden at this time of the year. The lawn looks really nice. At one point I really need to get in here and start cutting it, because there are patches where the mole was, but in general, I was even quite lucky so far with the mole situation. So I kind of feel that this might be a good year for the lawn too. You guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I always have great fun doing these videos with you and sharing it with you, because it is so inspirational, and it really kind of feels as if you are an artist always painting with different colors and textures and changing your painting throughout the season in the same area. So I'm very happy, very thrilled, can't wait for everything to flourish and come to bloom and really show you the updates, how everything looks here. But for today, I'm afraid that is it. So all I can say now is thank you so much for watching today's video. Thank you if you give me a thumbs up. Thank you if you decide to subscribe to my channel. And I would honestly love to welcome you very soon again in my garden. Take care, guys. Bye.